Hey guys, let's get more news from Steelers, but first, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave your like. Futures Rundown, Defense. In my previous article, we looked at Steelers' offensive players signed to futures contracts. Now's we turn to the defensive players, with snapshot scouting reports on each player. Marshall is a former three-sport, football, basketball, shot put, star in high school who parlayed that into a spot on the Arkansas defensive rotation. He was mostly a backup until his final season. His impressive last season with the Razorbacks culminated with him being selected by the New York Jets in the 6th round of the 2021 NFL Draft. Two things that will immediately catch your eye about Marshall are his athleticism and strength. He posted impressive results for an interior defensive lineman at his pro day, a 4.8840, a 32 vertical, and 36 reps of 225. On tape, that athleticism tracks as he can burst upfield past interior linemen. He is a hard worker who needs to continually refine his leverage and hand usage when asked to two-gap rather than penetrate, but the upside is evident in Pittsburgh. When watching Slade at Michigan State, his play style reminded me of a former Steelers defensive tackle, Henry Mondeau. Like Mondeau, Slade lacks the measurables necessary to be a real difference maker. What he does possess is frenetic energy, a bulldog mentality, and blue-collar work ethic, but needs to add more strength, especially in his lower half. He can be a quality developmental piece on the practice squad, with a shot to carve out a role as a rotational piece due to the traits that will endear him to a coaching staff. After an impressive showing in preseason, Perales was a member of the practice squad for most of the 2023 season, biding his time and developing behind the scenes. Perales is an intriguing player, as he is a pass rusher with a solid frame, 6'3/255. He understands how to use his length, leverage, and bend to corner tackles and meet at the quarterback. He has a good understanding of hand usage and how to free himself of tackle's grasp, and looks to separate the ball from the passer. Murray is an instinctive and athletic linebacker who started his college career as a dimebacker at Troy. He then transferred to Charlotte, where he was a captain and honorable mention All-Conference USA player. Then he transferred to Memphis for his final season. Possesses quality athleticism to contribute in coverage as a linebacker due to his fluidity, and uses his instincts to flow into throwing lanes and come up with turnovers. Is generally a sound tackler who utilizes quality pursuit angles. Could be a quality special teams coverage player. Barku is a player the Steelers obviously have an interest in developing. He was one of the first players they targeted in signing from a successful stint with the XFL San Antonio Brahmas in 2022. He stuck around throughout the 2023 season on the practice squad, and could be a player primed for a jump next year. Barku's background as a former wide receiver makes him such an enticing cover corner, as he makes plays on the ball while it is in the air like he is the target, as evidenced by snaring 9 interceptions in his final season in college at San Diego State. While he does possess a slight frame, 6'1/180, he isn't afraid to get scrappy in pursuit or with the wideout he is assigned to. Sometimes, he will look to jump routes, and can be susceptible to double moves. Barnes is a former high school track star out of Texas who won 2 state titles. He went on to play at Baylor, a program known for bringing some of the fastest players in the country. At Baylor, he moved from receiver to cornerback during his freshman season. His play as corner and his athleticism caught the eye of the Carolina Panthers, who took a shot on him as a 7th-round pick in 2022. Even after playing multiple seasons at corner, he needs a lot of refinement technically, but his elite speed, which includes the fastest 40 time at the 2022 NFL Combine, 4.23, size, 6'0/186, and quality length, 31 3/4, give him the upside to develop on the practice squad with NFL-caliber coaching. Longtime AFC North rival named potential replacement for Steelers Mason Rudolph. The Pittsburgh Steelers could turn to a very familiar face as their backup quarterback for the 2024 season. Joe Flacco was named a potential option to replace Mason Rudolph. Flacco has spent a lot of time in the AFC North. He was drafted 18th overall in 2008 by the Baltimore Ravens and was their starting quarterback for almost 11 seasons. This past season, he reappeared in the division when he joined the Cleveland Browns and became their starter. Now he could potentially be the backup to Kenny Pickett on another team in the division. During the February 19th episode of The Zach Gelb Show, Gelb said that he thinks the former Ravens and Browns QB could replace Rudolph to compete with Pickett for the Steelers' job. You know who the name is that could replace Mason Rudolph to compete with Kenny Pickett? And now watch, the guy is going to be floating around all the AFC North teams. It could actually be Joe Flacco. Flacco was one of the NFL's best stories during the 2023 season. He entered the 2023 regular season as a free agent after playing the previous 2 seasons with the Jets. The stint with the Jets was a tough one for Flacco. He went 1-4 as a starter over the 2 years, and he only completed 57.6% of his passes in 2022. That didn't stop the Browns from bringing him in after Deshaun Watson suffered a season-ending injury. Very few expected what came next. Flacco and the Browns did surprisingly well together. The team went 4-1 with Flacco as their starter. He threw for 1,616 yards and 13 touchdowns in those 5 starts, and the Browns ended up locking up a playoff spot before Week 18. They fell short in the playoffs, getting blown out by the Texans in Round 1 as Flacco threw a couple of interceptions. Still, that didn't take away from Flacco's surprisingly dependable play after many thought his career was over at 38 years old. He ended up taking home some silverware as a result of his 6-game run. Flacco won the 2023 Comeback Player of the Year award and may have resurrected his career. Maybe he could even play for the 3rd AFC North team of his career. Flacco probably isn't the name that Steelers are hoping to see behind Pickett on the depth chart. He would probably only be a 1-year option if they signed him and has always been very turnover-prone. His interception issues could make him a bad fit in Arthur Smith's offense, which will need to finish long drives to succeed. It's also kind of hard to know just what Flacco has left in the tank right now, based on 6 games. He hadn't been particularly good since leaving the Ravens. However, his experience could help him mentor Pickett, and his familiarity with the AFC North might help him fill in if the Steelers needed him to step in as the starter for some reason. He'd also be a pretty cheap option if all the Steelers are really looking for this offseason is a backup. He only cost the Browns $2.5 million last season and probably won't be getting any more than that at 39. There are definitely better options out there, like Ryan Tannehill and Gardner Minshew. The Steelers should be looking elsewhere for a backup QB, but Flacco would probably at least be better than Mitch Trubisky if he ends up in Pittsburgh. New QB option emerges for Steelers. The Pittsburgh Steelers are searching for a quarterback or at least competition with Kenny Pickett, and despite holding on to hope for Mason Rudolph to re-sign, another name has emerged as a potential option. NFL analyst Rich Eisen has tossed a new name into the quarterback carousel for the Steelers. If the team does lose out on Rudolph, they could turn to a new option, signing former Las Vegas Raider Jimmy Garoppolo to be Pickett's backup. Maybe he's a guy who winds up in Pittsburgh, Eisen said when asked about Garoppolo's landing spot. Backing up Kenny Pickett? Honestly, Garoppolo is facing a 2-game suspension for violating the NFL's performance-enhancing drug policy. He's expected to be released by the Raiders before mid-March, ending his 1-year run in Vegas. Right now, the Steelers' first option is Rudolph, who they believe could be the starter in 2024 if given a fair shot. However, reports claim he could be looking for a new location this offseason, leaving Pittsburgh in search of another veteran quarterback. Eisen believes Garoppolo could walk in with backup expectations, but by the time it's all over, Pittsburgh may have another. Remember when Jimmy Garoppolo, the quarterback in question, was told "You're so far gone, we're not even giving you a playbook at the start of training camp," Eisen said. And at the end of training camp, he was signed. And then wound up being the starter. Get out of here with saying his days are over being a starter. At 32 years old, Garoppolo is 43-20 as a starter in the NFL, throwing for 94 touchdowns and 51 interceptions. He's made a Super Bowl run with the San Francisco 49ers in 2019, but that year was his only complete season without missing any games. And you fan, what do you think of the Jimmy Garoppolo situation? Leave your opinion in the comments.